Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name is Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. It is primary day in Nebraska. Voter turnout expected to be right around 35%. Joe Jordan has a look at the voting and some key races.
The polls are open across Nebraska, and this is a first of its kind election in the state. This primary finds for the first time ever, voters are required to show some form of photo identification before they're allowed to cast their ballot. So when you go to the polling place today, you're going to have to show a state ID card, a driver's license, or some other form of acceptable voter identification before you're allowed to cast that ballot. As for the races across the state today, by and large, most are a done deal. We may, however, get one, possibly two surprises. Wait and see.
And he is Republican. Thank you. Good guess.
Republican Congressman Don Bacon voting early this morning. He's in a primary battle against fellow Republican Dan Fry, the winner to take on Democrat Tony Vargas in the fall. The Republican Party hoping to come together at that time. If you win the primary, do you need Dan Fry's endorsement to win in November?
You know, he didn't endorse his last 2022, but I hope to have it, because in the end, we agree on the core issues. We're pro-life. We believe in controlling the regulatory environment that helps our businesses grow. Like him, I do believe we need fiscal responsibility. You know, 2 years ago, he did not, he said he wanted Tony Vargas to win. And think about this, we have a one-seat majority today. If Tony would be in the seat, we would actually have Speaker Hakeem Jeffries.
If you lost today, would you endorse Dan Fry?
Yes, I have, in the end, I have supported Republicans up and down ballot.
We're also keeping an eye on one key state legislative race. 4 years ago, then State Senator Ernie Chambers, term limited for the second time and unable to run for re-election, was backing Terrell McKinney to represent North Omaha. McKinney, a Democrat, won. But now, the 86-year-old Chambers, an independent, wants back in, despite watching McKinney sound, at times, a lot like Chambers.
The police don't care about black people. If they did, they wouldn't do the things they do.
The polls are open until 8 o'clock here in the east, 7 o'clock Mountain Time out west. We'll have full results for you tonight on News Channel Nebraska. In Omaha, Joe Jordan, News Channel Nebraska.
As Joe mentioned, for the first time, Nebraskans have to show a valid form of photo ID when casting their ballot. If you forget your ID, you're allowed to leave and retrieve one. If you don't have one with you, you're also able to fill out a provisional ballot. The county election officials tell us that could end up causing some results to be delayed.
But what is new this year is that the people that did not show a photo ID at the polling locations, they do have that 7-day period to come in and satisfy that requirement. So we do have to wait until all of those are satisfied before we can tabulate any of those votes.
Anyone who has any questions about where they're registered to vote or the new voter ID process in general can contact their local election commission office. Now, once the voting is over, News Channel Nebraska will be live Tuesday evening with primary results coverage. We'll have reporters throughout the state bringing you the latest numbers and analysis as they come in. It starts at 9 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Mountain on NCN. In other news, the Nebraska State Fire Marshal investigating the cause of a church fire in Valentine. Firefighters called to Crossroads Assembly Church Monday night. They were able to extinguish the fire before it spread to the main part of the building. Valentine Fire Chief Terry Engels tells us the main damage was contained to the covered drive area, but says the church did sustain some minor smoke damage. Smoke from those Canadian wildfires, meanwhile, blowing into Nebraska for a second straight day, in some cases thicker than before. That has the Lincoln-Lancaster County Health Department issuing an air quality advisory for Tuesday. Lancaster County health officials say the air quality in the capital city and surrounding areas Tuesday will be unhealthy for individuals with higher sensitivity to air pollution. Health officials say breathing in that smoke can cause asthma attacks, worsen chronic bronchitis and emphysema, and cause chest pain in some people with heart disease. They're recommending those at risk stay indoors, keep their windows and doors closed, and use HEPA filters when possible. Now, there's an old saying that goes, bad things come in threes, but lately, the streak of bad, severe weather has been much more than 3. How about 14 days in a row with at least one tornado reported the U.S. starting April 25th and going through last Friday. All this as hurricane season begins next month. Emily Schmidt has more on what you can do to prepare for damages in case you're in the path of the next storm.
This spring has brought some wild weather. The Storm Prediction Center confirmed at least 200 tornadoes over more than 2 straight weeks. Split-second damage requiring long-term recovery.
It's going to be just a lot of work to get this back in shape again.
The weather is changing. So even if you've never experienced a disaster before, you need to do some research on your area and see how likely you are to experience a disaster in the next few years.
Shannon Martin of Bankrate says these storms are a reminder to prepare for potential disaster by battening down your financial hatches, especially ahead of hurricane season, which begins June 1st.
For your insurance, you should speak with your agent and make sure to inquire about any coverage gaps. Depending on where you live, things like wind and wildfire might be excluded. Flood and earthquakes are generally always excluded from your policy. So if you don't have separate standalone policies, you might really leave yourself open for a big financial loss.
Martin says you can get your physical house in order as well. Get your roof inspected, test garage doors, seal gaps. Think about how to cover windows before the storm hits. The kind of disaster may change across the country. Great Plains tornadoes, California wildfires, Texas flooding. But a spokesperson for nonprofit industry association, the Insurance Information Institute, says last year homeowners insurance costs jumped around an average of 10 to 12% nationwide. And in some states, insurers are pulling out of more disaster-prone markets, leaving homeowners with fewer options, often at even higher costs. In Washington, I'm Emily Schmidt reporting.
In international news, President Joe Biden is increasing tariffs on $18 billion worth of Chinese imports across a handful of sectors. The increases apply to steel and aluminum, legacy semiconductors, electric vehicles, battery components, solar cells, cranes, and even medical products. The move is an attempt to cripple Beijing's development of critical technologies and prioritize U.S. production. The new tariff rates will take place over the next 2 years. Now, Beijing has been known to respond with costly counterpunches. China's foreign ministry says it opposes the tariffs and says they'll take what they're calling necessary action to protect their rights. Closer to home, the Beatrice School Board honored 2 administrators leaving the district at the end of their current contracts. Betty Replogle retiring as an elementary school after 36 years and over 50 years in private and public education. Superintendent Jason Alexander said Replogle is a consummate professional who's done it all. Alexander also recognized Jason Suter, who's completing 35 years as high school principal. He started in a seasonal building and grounds job, eventually taught social studies, and then became an administrator. Alexander said Suter empowered teachers and students as part of a family. BPS losing over 300 years of teaching and administrative experience through retirement or job changes this year. Well, 2 famous raptors have returned to their perch in Fort Calhoun. 2 ospreys have made a nest on the grounds of the decommissioned Fort Calhoun nuclear station. Workers with Nebraska Game and Parks and Omaha Public Power District hooked up a camera, linked it to YouTube, and are streaming the raptors daily. Game and Parks officials say the birds and their nest survived the recent destructive tornado in nearby Blair. Now parks officials note the osprey population in eastern Nebraska is growing. There are eggs in the nest that are expected to hatch sometime later this month. Those chicks will stay close to the nest throughout the summer. And some Nebraska teens are celebrating after wins at the Middle School Nebraska Championship track and field meet. Casey Wanenberg takes us to Valentine, where a group of girls not only set a school record, but showed they can compete with bigger cities.
There's a D, there's an A.
It's not every day that you get to put your name
Mia, did you get a 4?
in the record books.
That's what we focus on. We try to be the best that we can be.
You want this one?
These Valentine middle schoolers set school records in track and field this year, including the 4x400 relay team.
And then when we realized that we broke it by 7 seconds, we were like amazed with ourselves. We didn't know we could break it by that many seconds.
Valentine Malcolm.
The team also made it to state, despite only running together a handful of times.
A couple meets before state got canceled due to weather.
Top 16.
Only the top 16 relay teams in Nebraska get to compete at state, no matter the school or city size.
Yeah, we have to compete against the big towns like Omaha, Lincoln. It can be intimidating. I was so scared.
Valentine was ranked second to last, 15th out of 16 teams.
We all work very hard, so I had a lot of faith in us when we were going into the meet.
West Point Beamer with the lead.
Their goal? Beat 11th place, which is what their relay team placed last year.
Got a runner just took over first place.
But that goal obviously wasn't high enough.
It's Valentine. So the Badgers are heard from here.
It was all adrenaline. I wasn't thinking, I couldn't feel anything. I was just like, I have to do this for my team.
She's running a really nice leg.
The team won their heat, capturing 6th place and beating much larger schools.
In 6th place, Valentine.
Making it the first time in Valentine school history to medal at the middle school state track meet.
We were like crying, laughing, like we were so excited.
Your team members.
With most of the girls moving to high school next year, they won't have a chance to beat this record again.
We have a really tight friendship.
But they'll always be able to say that they put Valentine on the map.
We're a very small town, but we have some good athletes.
At the middle school state track meet. In Valentine, Casey Wannenberg, News Channel, Nebraska.
And you can stay up with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com, click on the News tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. You're watching News Channel Nebraska.